Hello again and welcome to the 140k Imperial Guard Tactics video. Now before we get into today's video, I would like to say a huge thank you to James Peter Albert Vigor, love that name by the way, for sending in some awesome pictures of his 16th Cadian army. Absolutely love this army. James has sent some other pictures in before, but this is an updated army overview and it's absolutely fantastic to see this army grow. I love the red paint scheme and I really love that converted basilisk. It looks really cool with that epic cannon on it. So thank you for sending these pictures in, James. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they want me to use in my video, please post them on my Facebook page or you can email them to me at mordianglorytv@gmail.com and there will be a link down the description below for both the email address and for the Facebook page link. Now without further ado, let's crack on with today's video. Now today guys, I want to do a little bit of a meta watch. What is going on in the meta at the moment? What do we need to be prepared for, especially what is coming over the horizon? So let's just dive straight into that today. Now I've been noticing a bit of a trend in the meta recently, and that trend is turn 1 alpha strikes. Okay, most of those turn 1 alpha strikes do rely upon some kind of turn 1 teleporting or getting in your face or whatnot, be that shooting or be that combat, but we are seeing a lot of armies who are getting the ability to deep strike or pseudo deep strike in your face quickly. And so basically guys, the meta watch is we need to be prepared for alpha strikes more so than ever before. And to counter that, the summary is we are going to need more screening. We're going to need effective screening against that. So that's kind of the summary of the video, you know, and now what we're going to do is we're going to take that statement, we're going to break it down, and we're going to analyze a bit more and get into the nitty gritty, the fine detail. So the first thing that I want to take a look at is what is coming over the horizon. What is really going to, you know, influence this trend of, you know, alpha strikes, of hitting hard, and it's geopolitical. Now one thing to mention is right now guys, we're in a little bit of a limbo because around the corner is also going to be chapter approved 2022. It's going to be potentially another balance patch, and we're also looking at the new missions which are coming out, which we know are going to affect things like bring it down and rod and whatnot. So we are in a little bit of a limbo, but the armies that are out there right now, the armies that are doing well right now, and the ones that have been coming out, such as geopolitical, are still going to be pretty powerful, even with those changes. So I think whilst we're in a bit of limbo, I think this will still stay pretty relevant. But we'll see. Hey, let's check back on this video in 6 weeks or 6 months and see if I was right. Anyway, just wanted to mention that little caveat. But now let's just really get in there. So talking about geopolitical. Geopolitical have been out for a while now, the old version, and the new book is definitely going to be breathing some serious life into those boys, into those three-armed boys. And essentially, guys, if you've ever faced geopolitical, you'll know this, but they're tricksy, and a lot of their power comes from the fact that they kind of get to do things that other armies can't really do. And bear in mind, the book isn't out yet. There has been some reveals and some leaks and whatnot. The book isn't out yet, but from what we understand, what we know is Geopolitical are going to get 2 versions of Deep Strike where they can Deep Strike further away and charge. And I believe that is 8 inches away, not 9 inches, but correct me if I'm wrong. Or you can Deep Strike in 6 inches and you can't charge, but you can shoot. So we know that they're going to be getting different rules for Deep Strike, and that's army wide. That's not just via a stratagem or 2. And we also know they're getting crossfire, which is really going to boost up their shooting. Now, me personally, I'm really happy if shooting geopolitical is going to be a thing for 2 reasons. One, if I extend my third, geopolitical arm for a second, I do have a geopolitical army. It is very much a shooting geopolitical army, and I've maintained that cult shooting has always been quite good, and you can get quite far with it. So, from that point of view, I'm really happy about cult shooting. Also, from a guard point of view, as I have said in many of my videos recently, if someone wants to try and get into a firefight with a guard, let them fucking try. Pardon my language, hope you cover your child's ears, but let them try. Because guard outshoot anyone in an open pitched battle. I maintain that if you've got 4 tank commanders and 2 full payload manticles, you are going to be seriously shooting the crap out of people. Okay, and that's how I like to play my guard. I like to really shoot the crap out of them. I really like to just slam battle cannon shells and manticore missiles into them and just, I like to win the firefight, and that's how I've been building my list recently. So if Cult want to try that, let them try it. But back to what we're talking about, Alpha Strike. So Firstly, if they, Genes of the Court have got loads of ways of deep striking, and with the whole army practically. Also, they've got stratagems that let them roll 3d6 and pick the 2 highest. They get loads of ways of getting +1 to charge, and like I said, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that they can deep strike in 8 inches rather than the usual 9. So I could be wrong there, but let me know. At the very least, even if it's 9, they'll get a +1, so you're looking at an 8-inch charge, right? So they've got loads of ways of getting in your face from their deep strike, and also it's looking like they have abilities to get turn 1 deep strike with a couple of units. And we're seeing that with several other armies, aren't we? We'll be touching on that later. So if you're looking at that traditional combat Genes of the Court army, it's going to be getting close to you, it's going to be doing that turn 1, and it's going to be chopping you up. Also, if you look at the shooting Genes of the Court army, what's one of the new rules that Genes of the Court are getting? It is crossfire. The whole point of that is where they get units in front of you, behind you, all around you, and they get abilities to get +1 to hit and +1 to wound, which is massive. I mean, if you've got auto guns which can get crossfire on a knight, auto guns are winning that knight on like 5s, from what I understand. That's pretty big, right? So you need, as a guard player, to be taking that into account. Someone's going to be getting in your face turn 1, and they're going to be all around you. You don't want people to be getting behind your lines with that 6-inch deep strike. You need to have layers upon layers of screening. You need to have people, ranks of men and bullgrins and whatnot. You need to have that stuff. That I need to be aware of the fact that the Genes of the Court have got close range deep strikes available to you. It's like, look at it from a guard point of view. Imagine if you could have a whole half your army doing the Iotum Gorgons. Imagine if Iotum Gorgons got the ability to deep strike within close range like they do now, but it wasn't a stratagem. It was just what they got. And having the ability to do it with one unit with Iotum Gorgons is good. Imagine being able to do it with everyone. That's Genes of the Court, right? So that's one thing you want to be taking into account. So that's the first thing. We've got Cult, which are going to be in our faces. They're going to be shooting us. They're going to be charging us. And, they're going to be doing that turn 1. And this is an important thing. I want to mention it now before I forget it. If someone is able to get the drop on you turn 1, it essentially, how I see it, reduces your screen's effectiveness by 33%, by a third. Because typically, normally, ideally what happens is, the enemy doesn't get to you turn 1. The enemy's got to rush, run out turn 1. And you get 1 turn to shoot them. And then, turn 2, they crash into your first line of screening. And they kill it. And you get another turn to then shoot them. Then they crash into your second line of screening. And you get a 3rd turn to shoot them. Okay? That's, ideally, if you're running the 3-line system that I've talked about in the past, where you have line of screening, and then you're shooting. Ideally, you get a turn where they haven't killed anything. And then turn 2 and 3... your screen kicks in. If the enemy gets a drop on you turn 1, that means they're cutting out a 1/3 of the time you get to shoot them. So it's actually really, really hard if someone can get, deep strike in turn 1, be it via psychic powers or via teleportation or via ambush. It's really, really hard. So that's something that's just something I wanted to mention. Now, that's what's coming over the hill, Genes of the Court. Really, really, I think they're going to be a solid mid-tier, upper mid-tier army. I don't think they're going to be S-tier broken. Could be wrong, but from what I understand, they're going to be solid. You're going to see them popping up. Now, what is currently out there in the meta? Grey Knights. Grey Knights are still really popular. On the latest Metawatch that was done on the competitive subreddit, they had 21 players, which is really, really high, and they were maintaining a 58% win rate. Every tournament I have been to recently, there has been Grey Knights. Every time I have been down the club and I've seen people playing, or I have played Warhammer, it has been Grey Knights. Someone is always running them. There's always Grey Knight players everywhere. So you've got to take them into account. They're a really popular faction, and they can get the turn 1 on you. They can shunt with Dread Knights. They can teleport with psychic powers. They've got interceptors. These bozos can get a turn 1 drop on you. That's a turn 1 alpha strike, and they use their shooting to clear screens, and then they use their charging to clear screens, and they are turn 1 all over you. Let's look at another army that can do it. Thousand Suns. Thousand Suns have the ability to get 3 units in your face turn 1 by the equivalent of relics and psychic powers and stratagems. They can do it. So that's tricky, right? What else have you got out there? You've got your Tyranids. You've got Leviathan. What are those Leviathan lists doing? They're running a lot of Hive Guard, but you know what makes those Leviathan Hive Guard work? When someone is so busy dealing with something else. You know what that something else is? Swarmlord slingshotting Gene Stealers. That's where you take a Swarmlord, you take a unit of Gene Stealers, and you slingshot 20 Gene Stealers into the enemy's face. You do that turn 1, you do that turn 2. That's again, someone getting the ability to get a turn 1 push, a turn 1 Alpha Strike on you. So you've got all these armies, there's loads of other things out there. Honourable mention, it's not a turn 1 Alpha Strike, but it's so goddamn durable that it's sometimes, it's like a tidal wave you can't stop. You do have Dark Elder, who obviously can Alpha Strike if they want to with the Animus Vitae, of course, but they also have Thick City, which is doing a lot at the moment. That's Talos spam. Now you need to be able to screen those bozos out, because otherwise they're just going to fly over your front line of your screen and charge your tanks behind. Because they've got the fly keyword. They can just fly over, they can do what they want, right? So there's loads of stuff out there, and maybe you're going to start seeing it with shooting armies as well. Like Admech won a tournament, a big 68 player tournament this weekend. This week, I should say. Tau around the corner. Tau, they may not be turn 1 Alpha Strike combating you, but they will be turn 1 Alpha Strike shooting you. You can guarantee it, right? So, how do we deal with Alpha Strike? This is what's coming. We've seen the meta. We know what's coming. We need to be able to survive an Alpha Strike. It's really important to have resiliency. You need to be able to take a punch and be able to then survive it and be able to punch back. Now, essentially how I see it, there's 3 things you're going to want to take into account, or 3 options that you have. First option is you just take as many disposable bodies as possible. Okay, you just take loads of Cadian conscripts, you don't mess around, and you're just like, I'm going to dedicate a third to half of my list on conscripts and infantry. And what that is going to do is you're going to essentially, you know that you've got no combat capability, but you push forward as far as you can, you take the mid-board as quickly as you can, and then you get smashed in the face, and the next wave comes forward, you get smashed in the face, and the next wave comes forward, you get smashed in the face, and you take enough infantry to have a 4-line system. Essentially, that's one way of looking at it. You take enough bodies where you have 4 lines rather than 3 lines. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is you say, right, if I'm going to get charged, I want the enemy to bounce off me. And the way I can do that is by having a hard screen rather than just a masked up screen. Now, I look at Bullgrins for this. You can think about Lehman Russes with 2+ saves, obviously now, and you've got puncture cannons and heavy flamers or demolition cannons and heavy flamers. You can go that route. It's certainly something to take into account, because those units are quite flexible, because even if they can't don't need to do screen, they've got firepower they can contribute, so they're good. But I personally look down the Bullgrin route for that, or look down the Flamer Tank Demolisher. I do look down that as well. You've also got double heavy flamer chimeras, and you've got hellhounds, which will be becoming more relevant with the changes to bring it down in the future, where hellhound and chimera gives it the same points. But you want a screen where the enemy charges in and just bounces, and Bullgrin are great for that, because it means that you don't lose any ground. You take the ground, the enemy bounces, and then you just fight your way out of it, or you then fall back and shoot the crap out of them. But you don't lose much ground doing that. So that's another option you've got. You're going to be thinking Bullgrin or Flamer tanks. That's what you're going to be looking at. And the third option, which I actually think is going to be super relevant, is you want to have pushback units. So you've got meat, you've got sacrificial units, and you've got hard wall units, and then you've got pushback units. And there's 2 units that can really do this, and you can either use Scout Sentinels for it, or you can use small units of Crusaders to do it. Okay, because Crusaders can do like a sort of pre-game move, where they can move 6 inches and then move again. It kind of allows when you're getting turn 1, or you can have or you can just take Scout Sentinels. Now, Scout Sentinels are where I'm looking. Okay, that's where I'm going. And I think, personally, any list that you're building now, you want to be trying to make room for a minimum of 2 Scout Sentinels. 3 is ideal, because 3 allows you to screen out any, to do your scout move forward, and you can cover, if you go 9 inches, 9 inches, 9 inches between all the sentinels and whatnot, it allows you to essentially push back all across the line. 2 is the minimum, because 2 will allow you to push back like a table quarter's worth, like a half table's worth, but it essentially relies when you're doing like a refused flank or having a sacrificial flank that you don't care about. But 3 Scout Sentinels will allow you to push back, and my evidence for this working is I have played into Grey Knights must be half a dozen times now, and I've not actually yet lost against them. Okay, I've drawn against them or I've won against them, and the simple reason I was able to do that is I had Scout Sentinels. Scout Sentinels are literally a hard counter to Grey Knights. They can't get their turn 1 shunts on you. They can't do it. If they want to come out and take ground, fine, but they're going to be doing it into Scout Sentinels. If they don't kill the Scout Sentinels, then the Scout Sentinels will continue to push them back. So they have to get rid of them. Scout Sentinels are just absolutely fantastic. They're a hard counter to any of this turn 1 Alpha Strike bullshit. And every tournament that I go to, I face every game, every night down the club, I see someone using Grey Knights, or I face Grey Knights, and they're just it's a really good counter to them. It's a great counter to Thousand Suns as well. It's a great counter to the upcoming Genestealer Cult as well. It's not so good against Tyrannid Swarms. It's not the Genestealer Swarm. They're not going to care about that. They start on the board and they just run. They just run at you. They don't deep strike in. But it's still good against like 3 out of 4 of these Alpha Strike armies that we're seeing. The only issue with Scout Sentinels, if you take them as cheap as possible, which is what I like to do, is they only have a multi-laser, and that really doesn't do a lot of damage. Against Genestealer Cult, it's not too bad, because the multi-laser is actually quite good at killing chaff. You only have to kill a couple of 2 or 3 chaff people, and it's doing all right for making its points back. But what you could consider is upgrading to Heavy Flamers. You will have to spend an additional 30 points to give you 3 Scout Sentinels those Heavy Flamers, but it does mean that they can do something other than just screen out. They can also harass. They can also be counter charge units. Either Heavy Flamers, or you look down to upgrading their firepower. So you're looking at like a las cannon, or a missile launcher, or an autocannon, or a plasma cannon, something like that. You spend sort of 10 points on that, and the reason you do that is so that if you get into a game where it's just a shooting fest, you're not just trying to shoot multi-lasers into power armor, which never works. You're firing a decent gun into them. And if you spend that extra sort of 30 points, it does mean they're relevant in every single game, rather than only being relevant in half of your games. So it's but you have to pay 30 points for that. So can you squeeze the points in for it? I can't fit it in my list, but you might be able to. So that's it. That's where I'm seeing it. Now, just be clear, it's not necessarily one or the other or the other. This is not an either or situation. You can take a mixture of all. And in fact, I take a mixture of all. I take 3 Scout Sentinels. I take 2 Leman Russ Tank Commanders with Demolition Cannon and triple Heavy Flamer as a hard screen. I take 120 conscripts, or 120 infantry. I take a mixture, because one of the strongest things that Guard can do at the moment is we have a toolbox for everything. Now, this is just a little tangent that I want to go down. Please bear with me. But it's kind of like a message of hope and a message to get you guys pumped up. Guard has access to a huge variety of units and a huge variety of source material to draw upon. You've got your codex, you've got supplements, you've got Psychic Awakening, you've got custom regiments, you've got Cadians, you've got all this great stuff to draw upon. And it allows us to build an army that can go into any event, any tournament, and put up a decent showing. Now, it's very important to mention that Guard are not in a great place. Grunhammer put us on tier 4, like just above trash tier. But what I would say is that I think they were a little harsh. Okay, to be honest, but also Guard aren't going to win any events. We don't have that S tier broken bullshit combination that we can pull off. There's always going to be a game that you go into in an event that you just come across someone who's running the electrical car and they just smash you. Okay, and even if you do go into an event, your wins will typically not be huge wins. You might get the occasional one where you come across a baby seal or a noob and you smash them 95 or 100 points. But what you'll typically find is you'll win, but your wins will be like the opponent gets 70 points, you get 80, 85 points. So you're never going to get these huge wins that mean you're going to win the event. But you can go into an event knowing that you will do very decently. You'll get, if you go into a 5-game event, you'll go 2 and 3, you'll go 3 and 2, you'll go 2, 1 and 2. That's what'll happen. Me personally, I'm not the best guard player in the world. The ITC rankings attest to that. But what I can say is I've been able to go into events and maintain with the Cajun supplement a 60% win rate, a 55% win rate. And with Scions, I've been also able to maintain a 55 to 60% win rate. So, that's just using guard and the tools we have in our toolbox. So I'm never going to win an event with guard, not with the current layout, but I know I can go into any event, and if I haven't gone memey or done a skew list or just playing like playing badly, I know that I can go in, and every game that I go into, I can pull up a decent showing. I never go into a game where I don't make the enemy bleed. I don't, go down swinging. That's where we're at with guard now. You either get a nice, decent, fun win where your opponent has a good time and you have a good time, or you go down, but it's not an absolute smashing. It's not a whitewashing. You're able to, hold your head up high with a bit of dignity, and that's where we are with the guard right now. It's quite a nice place to be. We do have to try bloody hard. I feel like we have to put in, 20-30% more effort than everyone else does. But I would say that I think guard are in a good spot right now. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. As always, I want to say a huge thank you to the Patreon supporters. It's thanks to the Patreon supporters that I'm able to go out there, do these videos, keep my finger on the pulse of the meta, and bring back knowledge based on frontline experience and not just on Theory Hammer. So massive thank you to the Patrons. You guys are legendary. You truly are what keep this channel going. I'm not just saying that, I mean it from the bottom of my heart, guys. And if you're interested in becoming a Patreon, there's a link down in the description below. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.